All right, we back in the saddle. Arthur Moats in the building. Got Dom with me, and it's been crazy. It's been crazy. Free agency starts up, and before you know it, trades happening, import exports of said players and goods, and here we are just to react to all of it, man. So you already know the drill. Hit the like button one time for the culture, and subscribe if you are new to the channel. Because Dom, we got us a wide receiver, baby. We got us one of them ones. Oh, talk to me, man. Obviously, the people got a chance to see your, instant reaction with the video that you have posted. But talk to us, man. How you feeling about this DK move now that the dust has settled a little bit?
Man, when I heard that he wanted out of Seattle, he was the guy, he's that true number one wide receiver, 6'4", 230 pounds, 4.3 speed. He is the pinnacle of the wide receiver that you want on your team. But when I saw that, I just think about these last 2 years and remembering all the names that we had heard, all these big time names. I didn't want to get my hopes up.
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw the tweet and things have changed here. That's all I know. Things are going to be different, and I am absolutely pumped up. We've got another bully outside of George Pickens. We got two bullies. I think he's going to turn Acrisure Stadium into his personal highlight reel. DK Metcalf, he's going to be a game changer for the Steelers.
I mean, shoot, when you talk about, that bully ball element, I mean, in a sense, what we want George Pickens to evolve into, that's what you have in DK Metcalf. The total package, the guy that has the run out there catchability, has that big body to bully you on the perimeter, but also we see him block. We see him do that dog dirty stuff as well, where you're like, oh, you're not just a diva. You're like really about that like life of being a real football player, man. So obviously, that's going to be a huge, huge boost, man. But we obviously saw with that, we did sign him to a contract extension as well. We haven't seen one of these type of deals in a long time.
That's a big one.
5 years, $150 million. It just made me get a cold chill when I said $150 million. How you feeling about the deal, though, man? Jeez Louise, that's 30 per year. For a
lot of money.
Quarterback.
That's a lot of money for a wide receiver. And there are some concerns, some skepticism, but we do know that this season he's still on that old deal with Seattle.
Yes.
So we still have some flexibility with this upcoming season, but it does make me worried about the future. And I mentioned that little video that you talked about earlier that TJ Watt, he's going to need to get a contract extension. And that's going to be a lot of money. And this $30 million to DK Metcalf, 5 years.
Why you had to bring up TJ? We about to go broke between them two right there. I know you've seen that market. I know we thought Max Crosby did as bad. Man, Myles Garrett, why'd you have to do that one?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Myles Garrett getting one of the biggest or the biggest contract for a defensive player. That scares me about TJ Watt because when I think about those two and the value that they bring, it's TJ Watt up here and Myles Garrett down here. That's just the way I view things. Myles Garrett is great. I'd love him on the Steelers.
That's how I felt when we saw Max Crosby's deal. That came in at 35 and a half. I'm like, TJ's be getting 28.
There's there are so many games that TJ Watt has single-handedly affected the outcome of the game. I can't say the same thing about Max Crosby. Myles Garrett, maybe. I could see that with Myles Garrett. He's a game changer. But the money that Max Crosby is getting, TJ Watt, you just have to expect that he'd be worth so much more because of the impact that he has. So I don't know, but DK Metcalf, a lot of money for a wide receiver, but I still think with Omar Khan, he'll be able to have some flexibility, work things out. And with the way the cap space goes, it seems like it grows every year. So maybe we'll have more to work with.
I just laugh every time I pop up. Oh, it just magically became 279.2. Oh, now it's 280. Like, where is this like fairy tale money coming from, man? Like, just keep arrow pointed up, and we can keep getting these type of players, man. So we're all with it. We're all good for that. But obviously, with a guy like DK, when you talk about a player of his magnitude with the production that he brings, multiple years of being a 1,000-yard guy, Pro Bowl type of guy. Obviously, we know the mega contract that comes with that. what's the effect that has on a guy like GP in that wide receiver room? Because that, to me, is one of those, you put him here and it makes everybody else have to kind of react to him versus, it being the alternative. And that's how it's been traditionally, or at least while GP's been here, it's been that way. He's been the big fish, not having this type of player on the roster with him.
I think that is the big question. How is Pickens going to respond? Is he going to be okay being the second fiddle to DK Metcalf? From what I've seen from him, I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't get upset if he's not getting, 4 or 5 targets a game, which is very likely with, number one, the quarterback situation that we don't know what it's going to be. And then DK Metcalf.
Dom, you told me it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, man. Stop playing. You know it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, man.
Oh man, I don't know. We talked about Daniel Jones last week. That's still an option.
Yeah. But say some people getting paid out here right now, man. It's some checks being passed out, man.
Justin Fields got the bag. I don't know if I would have given him that much.
2 for 40, 30 guaranteed. I mean, now you were open to Justin Fields though a little bit, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely a Fields guy. I can't lie about that. I'm wishing him the best in New York. I think he'll be really successful. But the way that the Steelers handled his situation this year, I don't think it made sense for him to return. He played really well those first 6 weeks. It was basically an audition, and I'd say he passed. I think most fans would say he passed. But the team, maybe they thought he passed, but they thought that Russell Wilson did even better than him, which that's up to debate. But there was just no way bringing him back for that money when you're not convinced that he is the guy.
That was my thing. I'm with you. I'm like, I thought he played really well. I like what we saw. You even know when we talked about him this offseason, it was like, yeah, man, if you want to bring him back, man, we could definitely, formulate a plan to be very successful with him, and we could all get behind that. But the premise of every Justin Fields conversation that I felt like we had, or just the conversation surrounding him, were all predicated on him being the cheaper option. And that was what was always referenced. That was what was always, leading off the conversation in terms of why Fields over Russ, or why Fields versus the field. It's because of how cheap. And when you sign for 2 years, $40 million with 30 guaranteed, that removes you from the cheap conversation. That puts you back in, okay, let me compare you to everybody else's out here type conversation. And I think that, to me, if, from the Steelers perspective, I could definitely see that being a little bit of the, we don't want to commit that type of money to you based off of a 6-game sample size where we saw you really, play well. But there were still some questions and certain things that we still wanted to see you develop even more. That's a lot of money to commit on, such a small sample size from my eyes. But then again, I'm not the general manager or the owner of the Jets. So shout out to those guys, right?
I do think going back to DK Metcalf, I think adding him, it doesn't make me more convinced that you need a Justin Fields. It makes me more convinced that you need a strong arm quarterback. Justin Fields, the reason I liked him and I was a huge fan of him in this offense is because we didn't have a ton of options. He could be that third option. Exactly. He's a playmaker. Where I feel like now we've got DK Metcalf. We need someone who can throw the ball, be consistent, lead a team.
Put it up there.
So maybe Russell Wilson. Maybe this roster aligns more with Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers type of quarterback. I don't know.
You about to have the people upset. Now you start talking about Russ and Rodgers. Now, I'm going to just give y'all the heads up. As we're recording this right now, it's still 50-50 the way they talking about it. It's coin flip. It could be Russ, could be Rodgers. I don't think it to be Field, like the Field, because those names are starting to dry up pretty quickly, man. But yeah, it's going to get really interesting, man, as that plays out. Because like you said, man, with those two receivers, DK and GP, definitely down the grass guys you want to be able to put the ball up and give them opportunities to flourish. And yeah, when you think Rodgers, when you think Russ, those guys do at least promote more pass first in our mind. And when we think of Justin Fields, obviously a little bit different mindset with that. But that wasn't the only action that we had taking place in the black and gold. Obviously in free agency, we can either be signing guys or you could be potentially losing guys. We did happen to lose a couple of big fish. I mean, you brought up Justin Fields as the first one, but we also lost our 4-year starter at left tackle, Dan Moore Jr., to a insanely large contract with the Tennessee Titans, a 4-year, $82 million deal with $50 million guaranteed, 30 in year one. Whew. It's big banks getting paid out there. Big,
Yeah.
big money, Dom. Big money, Dom. How we feeling about that move right there? Dan Moore to the Titans and the mega contract signed following it.
Yeah, this one had me speechless. I couldn't believe that Dan Moore was getting this type of contract from the Titans. The Titans as a whole, that organization's confusing me a lot with their whole strategy, but this contract to Dan Moore, he's a solid offensive lineman, but the amount of money here, he's not that caliber, unfortunately.
Again,
Definitely
Trent
wishing
Williams
him the
money,
best.
man.
I don't know what these guys were seeing that we haven't been seeing. Just doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, my thing is it's like, man, I get quality left tackles. I get big men being able to block. And obviously, man, when you're talking about finding the continuity of a 4-year starter, a guy that didn't miss any games and didn't get anybody killed. That's the other part, right? Is like we laugh about it, but it is as simple as like, yo, did somebody get killed or hurt while you were on the protection? That wasn't the case. Now, we know, obviously, when it's the Myles Garrison, the Max Crosbys, or the Trey Hendricksons of the world, yeah, Dan definitely came up short and yeah, did not look his best. But we also know what he looked like versus everybody not named, top five. He did do his job. And I think that that's the part. Now, the overpayment to me is, I think when you just get to the open market and you're able to negotiate with other teams, who was the left tackle that you were going to sign this offseason if you had to get a left tackle? Because we've clearly seen with the draft, it's a crapshoot with offensive linemen. That more so than anything, those dudes, it could be a first round, it could be a fifth rounder, and it's a coin flip which one is actually going to be able to come in here and play at a high level. So when Rodney Stanley re-signed with the Ravens, essentially that pushed Dan Moore to being the marquee tackle. And I just think, he just kind of capitalized on a great opportunity of being the big fish and nobody else to really, compete against him, so to speak. Because I think the other name that I saw, was it Cam Robinson, maybe? I think that might have been one of the names that I saw out there as like a left tackle. And I'm just like, that can't be like the next big name in comparison to Dan Moore, right?
I think it's just, you hit it right on the head that there's just not a lot of consistent and valuable left tackles in the NFL. And you're right about him capitalizing on the situation. It was just the perfect timing, the perfect storm for him to get the bag. $50 million, though. If this was the Steelers paying $50 million, it's one of the, I hate to say it, but it's one of the worst uses of $50 million in free agency. The guy got paid, so good to him. And I think he'll be just fine. I think he'll be very valuable for the Titans. Yeah. But as for the Steelers and what we've been getting out of this offensive line, and specifically from Dan Moore, it was just never going to be an option to bring him back.
Yeah, now I'm be interested to see, obviously, how Broderick performs. We obviously have had a lot of optimism / speculation surrounding him. And obviously everybody has like different opinions on Dan Moore. But I always just say to myself, man, when in doubt, if, the other guys were to hit the market, would they be able to land this type of deal? Honestly, I don't think they would. And I don't know if that makes me feel good about this situation or even more nervous about the situation, because I'm just like, that is a lot of money to pay to Dan Moore.
Yeah.
And we're optimistic about Broderick, but I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. So that part will be very interesting, man. Very, very interesting. Another dude that we saw ultimately depart us as well, man, guy that we were talking about, running back Najee Harris. Going out to LA, going back to Cali. How you feeling about that one, man? Was it 1-year deal up to $9.5 million in incentives?
Yeah, that number, I feel like the Steelers might have been able to get him for that 1 year, that $9.25 million. That was a bit, in a range where I feel like the Steelers could have competed with that. So in that way, I'm kind of disappointed. And I'm also disappointed because of how consistent he's been over these last 4 years, playing in every single game, 1,000-yard rusher every single year. He is Mr. Consistency. But I do think the options out there might be better. I've been thinking a lot about Ashton Genty lately. We've got plenty of time to talk about that in the next coming months. But I think it just makes sense. And Ashton Genty excites me a lot more than Najee Harris. So that's what I'm trying to get in my head to not get too down. I'm thinking, the upside. Yeah. What can we get out of this? Because Najee Harris, he was great, but was he the best running back that we could get? Probably not. So I'm still optimistic about the running back situation. We're bringing back Jaylen Warren, so we know that we've got at least one dependable running back.
Yeah.
Najee Harris, it is unfortunate because he was a great player, real likable player for the Steelers.
Well, Dom, I mean, you speak of my language, you bringing up, Genty and running backs. I'm like, all right, but you know the rules, man. You can't take them in the first round, and we don't have a second round pick. So, you catch what we count at right now, man. But I like what you're saying. I like your energy now. I like it. I even saw
if he drops to pick 20, if Ashton Genty drops to pick 20,
what I saw, Dallas was like the team that everybody was mocking him to, and two things. Dallas, I forgot what they signed a running back most recently in free agency, but then they also were saying that they don't want to take a running back at 12. And I'm like, if they don't do that, then Genty could most definitely fall. And now, as you're looking at our roster, well, initially, a lot of these mocks had us taking a wide receiver in the first round. You got DK Metcalf. We do not need to take another wide receiver in the first round. Now, we could talk maybe D tackle, but if not that, then it's like, which position are you, addressing? You brought in, you have a JPJ. This Darius Slay is not. We will hopefully get some type of clarification with that sooner rather than later, but you can see where they already have their eyes set with that, along with having a Corey Trice back there. So when you start talking about that first round, it might be more of a luxury than I have to pick this right here. And that could be a good position to be in. We know that's something that the Steelers do like to, that's their philosophy going into the draft. They want to feel like they have 22 starters out there before heading into the draft versus feeling like they have to draft this particular player at this particular position. So a little bit different philosophy, but am open to that nonetheless, man. So, like I said, man, it is interesting. It is interesting right now. It was another guy I had to ask you about real quick, though, man. So, we obviously know former quarterback of the Black and Gold, former first-round draft pick quarterback of the Black and Gold, Super Bowl champion right now, most recent with the Philadelphia Eagles, has made his way back to the AFC North. I'm talking about Kenny Pickett. Traded from the Eagles to the Cleveland Browns for a fifth-round draft pick and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. How are you feeling? What are your thoughts? We got Kenny back in the division. He's back in the AFC North, ladies and gents.
Man, I'm a hater on the Eagles, so I was already super disappointed when he went there. I was also disappointed on the way how everything was handled with, him not really wanting to compete. Verdict's still really out on what the true story was there, but I was never a fan with how that situation was ended. But now getting traded to the Browns and knowing what Deshaun Watson, his injury situation is like, we might see Kenny Pickett twice this year. Now, Browns, they might be drafting Shador Sanders or Cam Ward, so we might see those guys. But right now, there's a good chance we're going to be playing Kenny Pickett 2 times a year with the Browns. And for some reason, I hate to say this, I think Kenny Pickett would get a win versus the Steelers. It would just be like the most Steelers thing ever. Like, get him one. He's not going to sweep them, but it would be the most Steelers thing ever for him to win one game versus Steelers, and it would ruin my week and every Steelers fan's week, guaranteed.
Look, I will be thoroughly surprised and thoroughly impressed if that were to take place. I think it goes very, very differently. I just think of our defense, and specifically, you remember what you had to do when certain players were your quarterback. And whenever you get a chance to see them again and ultimately return that, hey, you remember how it was you were the clutch guy, you were Mr. Fourth Quarter? Let me show you what it's like to play against this four quarters, Mr. Clutch, Mr. 2 minute, Mr. Like, let me end the game and we're gonna talk about your victories and all this other stuff. Like, let me show you real quick. So to me, I gotta see it that way. I see a very amped up, spirited, motivated unit trying to ultimately make a lot of plays. And ultimately, man, for Kenny does have some good things. And that was the thing we said when he was here. But at the same time, he's still very young and he still has to become more consistent. And it's just our defense typically takes advantage of people that are in that stage. So, we'll see though, man. It's a long way away. It's a long way away. But I said, man, Kenny is back. He's back.
Couldn't believe it.
Ooh. What a time, man. What a time. So that will conclude us, man, for the day. But I'm excited to see what the next moves we are going to make, man. Obviously, like I said, we're in the heart of free agency right now. Hopefully, by the time we do this again, we'll know who our quarterback is. All right. We got to find a quarterback. All right. So that'd be the goal. But anything left on your end before we get up out of here, Dom?
I don't know. Maybe think about Daniel Jones. Think about the strong arm, the athleticism. Just think about it, Steelers fans. I saw the comments the last one. You don't like Daniel Jones, but think about it. Watch the highlights. And even Aaron Rodgers. Just think about who you really want. Because I've been thinking long and hard about it too.
Let's go. Let's go. Love it, man. Love it. So you already know the drill, man. Hit that like button one time. Don't forget to subscribe either and drop it in the comment section. How y'all feel about what was discussed? How y'all feeling about young Dom as well? But either way, I appreciate you. And until next time, baby, peace.